Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Deku and Ochako were couples, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Chubby Otaku Girl 16, link is in the description. Also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's begin the video. Ochako sighed in frustration, as she saw her husband lying down uncomfortably in his sleep, tossing and turning on the bed. Judging by the disturbed look on his face, and the dried up tears on his cheeks, she could deduce that the symbol of peace had cried himself to sleep again. She had a sad look on her face. Oh Deku, she yawned and stretched, then she climbed on the bed and lay down next to him, softly running her fingers through his curly, messy green locks of hair. When are you gonna learn that it's just not possible to always save everybody? She softly whispered before drifting off to sleep. A few hours before the sunrise, the said symbol of peace's eyes shot open. He panted hard as he sat up, stretching out his left hand towards midair. Izuku glanced at his digital alarm clock. 4:32. He groaned as he ran his fingers through his hair. He couldn't sleep even if he wanted to, because the pain of failure would swallow him whole. Plus he was used to having sleepless nights. He opened and closed the palm of his left hand, examining it for no reason whatsoever, and pulling it close to his well-built chest. Over the years, Izuku had grown very lean and muscular, not too muscular like All Might, but just enough to get the public's attention. Being the symbol of peace at age 27 made Izuku very popular, especially among the young female audience, much to Ochako's dismay. He continued to roughly drag his fingers through his hair. As he muttered some incoherent words to himself, he turned to look at his wife peacefully sleeping beside him. He rubbed her back softly. Izuku tried to fight the lump in his throat, but it was no use. He couldn't fight the tears that were streaming out of his eyes. He felt the pain of despair, and failure hit him again. About 2 days ago, around noon, there was a strange villain with a bunch of lackeys who attacked some office firm. The villain had a quirk similar to Bakugo's, an explosive type. Of course, taking him and out was no big deal. But Izuku couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. After saving the people who were taken hostage by the villain's lackeys, one of the workers rushed to him and told him that the lead villain with the explosion quirk got a hold of her close friend, and she was missing. Izuku dashed through the whole building in less than no time. He found the villain on the top floor and cornered him, forcing him to tell him where the woman was. The villain had this sadistic grin on his face and pointed towards the direction of a corpse. As Izuku's eyes made contact with the corpse, he knocked the villain out in a sheer fit of rage. He slowly walked closer to the lady, fighting back the tears and trying with all his might to believe that she wasn't dead. But of course that didn't work. As he approached her, he felt his legs grow weak, causing him to kneel down beside her. Her hands were twisted in a painful position. She had a big stab wound in her shoulder. Her head was lying about 3 inches away from her, hair sprawled all over her face, blood on her mouth, and tears on her cheeks. Surprisingly, though, her eyes were closed. He couldn't even find the right words to say, because he simply did not know what to do. He entangled his fingers with her own, holding her bloody hand firmly. It's not like he knew her or anything, but he just felt the urge to scream, and he did. He let out a large shout in despair, and in a matter of minutes the police had surrounded him. That same day, the dead woman's friend brought the sad news to her family, crushing their hearts to pieces, and the office firm scheduled a memorial for the woman. The next day the case already reached the media, but the information on the woman who was killed did not reach the public. Izuku hated when the media did that. They would tell the whole world about his victory, but never mention the little boy he couldn't save, or the innocent civilians who drowned, or those people who were buried in a landslide. But it's not like Izuku could broadcast to the public about all the people he couldn't save. Also the media, as well as the rest of the pro-heroes, couldn't have the people's trust wavering in him. A single person losing their life was enough to make Izuku feel worthless and depressed, really depressed. And once he fell into depression, there was nothing anyone could do about it besides wait for him to get over it, which would take days, or weeks, and sometimes months. Most of his close friends and his mom would talk to him about it. Ochako would nag him, Shoto would scold him, Ida would lecture him, and Bakugo would insult him and call him a loser. I never saw All Might cry. Not even once. You're supposed to be stronger than him, aren't you? But yet you cry like a fucking weakling, you damn loser. Bakugo would say that to him on a normal basis. But he was right, wasn't he? Of course he was a loser. How could he call himself the symbol of peace if he couldn't protect a single woman? A woman who had a job and a family who were currently mourning for their death. Why was he so worthless? There were so many people who depended on him, but yet, damn it, he cried, as he bit his lips, allowing his tears to run down his face. Some symbol of peace I am. Hey, All Might, is this what you had to go through too? Why? Deku! Ochako exclaimed. Izuku was a bit startled. He wiped his tears and gave her an apologetic look. Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to wake you up. She held his hands and gave her a serious look in the eye. Why do you? No, how long are you going to keep doing this? How long are you going to keep beating yourself up? Huh? He gave her a questioning look. Deku, you're a hero. The symbol of peace. Despite that, you're still a human being. I know it's sad, but sometimes there will be people that you just can't save. Why won't you get that into your head already? I've said this like 1,000 times already, Deku. He took her hands off his face and held them to his chest, still silently sobbing. It's not like I want to be sad, but this pain I feel, it feels like it's piercing my heart. How can I call myself the symbol of peace if I can't even save one woman? If I just came a little earlier, I could have saved her. Ochako groaned and pulled her hands away from him. You see, you're doing it again. That's right there. It's not bad to mourn for the death of innocent people, but even still, you can't let someone's death eat at you like this every single time. If you keep up with this depression, you're only going to get weaker, and soon you'll even be too depressed to be a hero. Aren't you the hero that saves everyone with a smile? Also, you have your fellow pro heroes by your side, and you have me, although it doesn't really feel like that anymore. Izuku tilted his head sideways in confusion. What do you mean? I can't take it anymore, Deku. You're always so down in the dumps. It's not only affecting you, but me too. You're not fun anymore, and you hardly eat. And there's a whole bunch of new things that I learned how to make from Tsuyu that I wanted to cook for you. You don't really talk much, and you're always secluding yourself in your office. And you never want to do anything with me, as a husband. I really try to consider your feelings, as a hero, but, as your wife, I'm worried, and lonely. All in all, I miss you, Deku. Izuku's sadness immediately faded away, and was replaced by guilt. He never even considered her feelings. Izuku gave her a small smile, and cupped her cheeks. Your words always seem to cheer me up. I'm sorry. I've been making light of your feelings. I didn't know you felt that way. She placed her hands on his, smiling happily. It's okay, Deku, I know it hurts. Izuku kissed her lips softly. Ochako was a bit surprised, but nevertheless kissed him back, missing his warmth. Izuku deepened the kiss, and wrapped his arms around her back, realizing that he missed her more than she missed him. After about 20 seconds, they pulled away from each other. He rested her forehead against hers, panting a little. I miss you too, and I love you, he said. I love you too. Hey, wanna try for a baby? He whispered against her lips. Ochako smiled, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Isn't it late? Or early rather, she said, glancing at the clock. 4:49 a.m. Yeah, but I'm kinda awake now, plus I miss your body. He whispered the last part of the sentence in her ear. Deku, she said happily. He took off his shirt, then both of them fell on the bed. And well, you know what happens from there. Deku, Izuku Midoriya, Ochako called out, hitting her sleeping husband's cheeks softly. Izuku's eyes shot open, and he quickly sat up, looking left and right in an alarmed state. He rubbed his tired red eyes as he turned to look at his wife with a huge smile on her face. Honey? What's wrong? Ochako blushed a bit, holding his hands and pulling herself closer to him. I have a surprise for you. A surprise at this time of the day? Can it wait till later? He said in a worn-out, tired voice. It can't. Izuku was curious now. He gave Ochako a curious look. She intertwined her fingers with his, staring at their hands and giggling. Izuku cocked his head sideways in confusion. You okay? Ochako nodded, and then she finally looked him in the eye, giving him a small smile. Deku, I hope you're gonna like being a father because I'm pregnant. Surprise, she said, flailing her arms up and down happily. It took about 10 seconds for Izuku's brain to process the information, and during those 10 seconds he only gave her a plain stare. Ochako started to tense up a bit, thinking that he was going to reject the baby. Deku? She called out. His face broke out in a huge grin. He jumped off the bed, picked her up, and spun her around. Really? I can't believe this. This is awesome. It's amazing. That's a relief. You know, for a second there, you had me worried. I thought you were gonna reject the baby or something, she said, holding on to his arms. What? Heck no. And of course I am going to enjoy being a father. He pulled her close to him and kissed her passionately. I love you so much, he said, placing a hand on her abdomen. How long has it been? He asked excitedly. About 2 weeks, according to Recovery Girl. Huh? You went to see a Recovery Girl? He asked, putting her down on the bed. Ochako rubbed the back of her head. Yeah, yesterday, when I went to visit Momo. It just happened so fast. I got sick all of a sudden with a fever. And then she took me to see Recovery Girl. She did some tests and told me I was pregnant. Well, that's okay, I guess. But babe, we're gonna be parents, he said, spinning her around in the air again. From now on, he put her down on the bed again. I will devote myself to taking care of you. And this baby at all costs, he exclaimed. Izuku put his finger under his chin, as he started pacing back and forth in their large bedroom. So you're going to have to suspend the hero work right now. Ochako scoffed. It's only been 2 weeks. I can still handle being a hero. No way. I'll have to request an early maternity leave for you. Your quirk might also have an effect on the baby if you overdo it. So I don't want to take any risk. Plus your pregnancy has to be a secret. I can't risk villains coming to attack you when you're heavy. So this will only be known to a few heroes. Ochako's sweat dropped. Deku, you're overthinking things. I have to schedule different appointments for her with a recovery girl. At least 4 every month. Plus I'll need to do most of the house chores so I won't stress her out. And he muttered to himself. Deku. Geez, she said, folding her arms over her chest. Sorry honey, I'm just really excited. Does anyone else know? Ochako tapped her chin with her index finger. Well, apart from Momo and recovery girl, let's see, there's Mina, Tsuyu, Toru, and Kyuka. That's about it. And I was planning on telling my parents later on today. Oh, you should tell your mom too, Deku. Yeah, you're right, he smiled again and embraced her in a warm hug. I love you, he said, kissing her cheek. I love you too, and sorry for depriving you of your sleep. Because work starts in 5 minutes, she said, pointing at their alarm clock. 5:55 a.m. I don't mind being late. Izuku fidgeted uncomfortably in his office chair. He gripped his knees tightly as he began to ponder on his thoughts again. While he rested his head on his large desk, his eyes scanned his entire office, drifting from the numerous pens on his desk to the marble plaque that had his name inscribed on it, and from the black leather chairs to the maroon-colored couch that stood proudly at the corner of the office. His office was really large and spacey, despite the amount of furniture. On the walls he had a picture of all of the top 10 pro heroes, which consisted of his ex-classmates. Since he was the symbol of peace, and he owned his own hero agency, everything had to be top-notch and classy according to the government. It's not like Izuku really enjoyed the high-class fancy stuff. On a normal basis, the only thing Izuku did in his office was paperwork regarding the hero business. When it came to fighting villains, he'd leave his office in a flash. He sighed as his eyes finally landed on the medium-sized portrait of him and Ochako on their wedding day. He sighed again and ran his fingers through his hair, silently hoping for some villain to attack and get his mind off his wife's pregnancy. Izuku wanted a child, he really did, but with all the crime and villain attacks, he wasn't so sure if he was always going to be around to care for his child, since he was always so busy saving the world. The news of Ochako's pregnancy made him so excited that he didn't even bother to think about the issue of not being able to be a good father. Izuku sat up straight as he heard a knock on the door. Come in, he answered. Shoto opened the door and casually walked inside, looking slightly stressed out. Being ranked as the 3rd top hero was as strenuous for Shoto as it was for Izuku. His eyes looked tired, and his face looked like he needed a few more hours of sleep. Despite his stressed appearance, his handsome features never declined. Shoto scratched the back of his head with his left hand, and he used his right hand to fiddle with one of the carriers on his waist belt on his costume. He pulled out the black leather chair from in front of Izuku's desk and sat on it. Good morning, Shoto. Izuku greeted me. Hey, he answered. Do you need to talk? Izuku asked. Well, I was actually going to scold you, but judging by the look on Gravity's face today, I'd say you guys had a really nice talk or made love or something. Yo, wait, what? Geez, you know me too well, Shoto. Shoto smirked. So I was right. Anyway, I really hope you're done with that depression phase of yours, because no one likes to finish jobs you started. He had a serious face now. It made Izuku tense up a bit. I'll try my best to stop doing that. And sorry about earlier this week. Don't try your best, do your best. Listen, Izuku, you can't keep on forgetting about the comrades you have by your side. Symbol of peace or not, you can't shoulder the weight of the whole world, you know. Izuku sighed. I know that, and I'm going to make up for it in my actions. That's what you came to tell me, right? Not exactly, the fire/ice hero said. Shoto folded his arms and gave Izuku a warm smile. I heard from Momo, Gravity's pregnant, right? Congratulations. Izuku let out a light laugh. Thanks, but I've been thinking, you know, with all of my excess hero work, I don't know if I'll be the best father. And I really don't want a situation where my child will be like, I want nothing to do with my father because he abandoned my mother and made her cry. Shoto rolled his eyes. You're already overthinking things. Also, what if a villain attacks her when she's really heavy, and I'm not there? That's what I'm also afraid of. And that's why you're going to do everything in your power to protect her, right? Yes, of course. Then there's no need to worry. Izuku smiled at him. He let out a sigh of relief. Thanks Shoto, I can always rely on you to help me relieve stress, by the way. How's mom doing? Shoto groaned. He slouched on the chair, hanging his head low. Taking care of his pregnant wife was the hardest thing he's ever done in his life. She has the weirdest cravings now. First she'll want some katsudon with icing, and then she'll want some taiyaki with curry. Izuku laughed. She sounds like a handful. She is. The worst part about her pregnancy is the way her quirk activates in her sleep. Every morning I wake up surrounded by new things. This morning I woke up surrounded by 20 AK-47 shotguns and 10 Russian dolls. Izuku laughed again. Well, it's all gonna be worth it in the end, right? Yeah. What Deku? An angry Katsuki Bakugo shouted as he barged in Izuku's office. Morning Kaken. Morning my ass. The fuck have you been? There's this crazy ass skeleton villain who's knocked down a bunch of pros, so get your ass out of your comfort zone now. You too, Todoroki, he yelled, slamming the door. Izuku and Shoto looked at each other. Izuku sighed while Shoto just shook his head. He never changes, does he? That's just how is. Bakugo Katsuki had a demonic grin on his face. He licked the silver tablespoon in his hand as he eyed the little plate filled with spicy curry sitting in his microwave. Nobody would ever understand why the king of Explodo killed a microwave in his office when he could easily ask for his food to be heated up in the cafeteria. He growled, trying to resist the urge to drool, because the only thing on his mind was devouring the spicy delicacy. But he couldn't. He needed to savor and enjoy it while eating, and he knew he could only do that if the curry was above 50 degrees. I'll be back for you. He set the microwave to 2 minutes before closing it gently. But first I gotta get myself a fucking drink, he said. Bakugo walked out of his office, making sure the door was closed behind him. Unfortunately though, he didn't seem to notice an average-height grape-headed hero sneak inside his office with an evil smirk. Mineta Minoru swiftly snuck inside Bakugo's office, opening the microwave and taking out the steaming bowl of curry. Mineta grabbed the tablespoon Bakugo left on the microwave. He took a big spoon of the curry and shoved it in his mouth. His eyes nearly popped out as he felt his taste buds melt. Holy crap, this stuff's good. He took another spoon, and another, and another. This is what you get, Bakugo, for stealing my lunch money last week, he said, cackling with a weird wannabe villainous laughter. The grape-headed hero gobbled all the curry. Then he let out a sigh of satisfaction. Mineta put the empty bowl of curry back in the microwave along with the spoon, and closed it. He quickly stuck his head through the door to check if anyone was nearby, but thankfully no one was around. Mineta smirked, feeling victorious, then he dashed off and disappeared into the halls. Bakugo stomped angrily through the halls, clutching the bottle of orange soda in his hand with so much force. Stupid bitch. Making me wait for 5 minutes just to get a damn soda, he said in anger. His scowl faded as the memory of his awaiting curry in the microwave flashed in his mind. Barging in his office with an unnecessary brute force, Bakugo quickly sprinted to his microwave, opening it slowly, that way the aroma could escape into the atmosphere. I need to sink my teeth into. Everything around Bakugo fell silent as his eyes made contact with the empty plate sitting in his microwave, with the only source of noise coming from the bottle of orange soda that hit the floor with a loud thud, and the mini explosions that were sparking from his palms. What the fuck? What happened to my food? He shouted angrily. Bakugo dashed out of his office and sprinted through the halls. Those bastards, they're definitely going to pay for this. It was a normal ordinary day for the pros, and since there was nothing to do, and no villain to attack, they all decided to chill in the leisure room of the agency. Their leisure room was fairly big. Its floors were carpeted, the walls were decorated with nice wallpaper and posters. There was a huge window that gave them a nice view of the city, a big coffee table in the middle of the room, an air conditioner to always cool the atmosphere, big comfy couches that the pros would often take naps on, and of course a flat-screen TV. Ochako was sitting on one of the couches going through some baby magazines. Shoto was sleeping and resting his head on her shoulder beside her. Kirishima was lying down on the floor playing a game on his phone. Kaminari was resting his head on Kyuka's lap staring at the ceiling while discharging some electric sparks from his fingers. Kyuka was blasting her ears with music and running her fingers through Kaminari's hair. Ida and Mina were playing chess, and Tokoyami was sitting alone in a corner brooding. Checkmate, Ida said, placing his queen in front of Mina's queen. Ah, no fair. You always win, Mina wailed, flailing her arms up and down. Ida pushed his glasses up, smiling in victory. It takes skill to be a chess player, Ashido. You cannot simply win because you want to. You have to master the art, he said by doing his hand gestures. Whatever. Let's play again. What? Then that would be the 5th time. Keep it down, you two, Tokoyami said. Arg. I can't get past level 7. Kirishima groaned. I'm bored, Kaminari mumbled. Bakugo grabbed the door handle, carefully trying to avoid making it explode. He gritted his teeth as the image of the empty plate in his microwave flashed in his mind. He barged in the room, making the door slam into the wall behind it, startling the heroes. You fuckers! Who did it? Who? Huh? What's wrong with Bakugo? Kirishima asked. Don't you what's wrong me? Who did it? He yelled. The heroes looked at each other in confusion, except Shoto, who was still peacefully sleeping on Ochako's shoulder. Did I do it? Like you don't know what I'm talking about, he snarled angrily. Who the fuck ate my curry? That's why you're throwing tantrums, Kirishima said. Bakugo glared at him. Shut up, you fucker. I put in the microwave to get all nice and hot. I walk out for 5 minutes, and the next thing I know, there's a fucking empty plate sitting in my microwave. Temper, Kaminari teased. Don't cry, little Bakugo-chan. I'm sure that person didn't mean to, so be a good boy and stop throwing tantrums, Mina said in a mocking tone. Mina and Kaminari laughed at Bakugo's angry scowl. Bakugo's eyes twitched in anger. You think this is funny? He yelled, flipping the coffee table over, making the chess pieces fly everywhere. Hey, Bakugo-kun, you must not put your anger on the agency's property, Ida shouted. Shut the fuck up. I want my food. Never get in the way of a man's food, he said, sparking off more explosions, kicking, and throwing any single kickable/throwable object he could find. Ochako groaned as she dodged one of the objects flying towards her direction. Bakugo-kun, calm down please. If that's the case, then I'll buy you another one. Bakugo glared at her. I don't need your damn pity. And why the fuck are you even here? You're 2 months pregnant. You're not supposed to be working. What a tsundere, Kyuka mumbled. Ochako folded her arms and puffed out her cheeks in anger. I can still handle the hero work. You bastards still haven't answered my question. Who ate my fucking curry? Cough it up so I can kill you. Hey Bakugo, stop with the tantrums already, Kirishima said. You're too loud, Bakugo, Tokoemi complained. All ya curry thievin' fuckers are gonna pay dash. The other heroes froze in fear as they watched Bakugo fall on his face and crash hard on the ground. Izuku stood behind him, fully dressed in his costume, holding his fingers in an all-too-familiar pinching gesture. He's out cold, Mina said in shock. Kirishima sighed in relief. Man Izuku, that knockout pinch of yours is always as scary as hell. Izuku rubbed the back of his head nervously. Sorry, I try not to use it a lot. He'll come to in a few hours. Izuku, are there any jobs for us? Tokoemi asked. No, not at the moment. Actually, Izuku turned his attention to the pregnant brunette covering her face with a magazine. I was looking for Uravity, but it looks like I found her. Izuku walked up to Ochako and took the magazine away from her. I've been looking for you all day, babe. You told me you weren't coming to work today, so that's why I decided to stay home. But then you disappeared. I was so worried, although I should have checked here first. But I can still handle the hero work, Deku. Ochako fumed. Doesn't matter, you should be at home resting, not doing hero work. I just can't have you working anymore. He gave her a worried look. Plus, why haven't you been sticking to my diet plan? He said, holding a piece of paper in front of her face. Ochako's sweat dropped. Deka, I am fine. Right, guys? She turned to look at the others who were whistling softly in the background. Hey, back me up here. I don't know Uravity. I think Izuku's right, Kirishima stated calmly. Yeah, you should go home and relax, Mina added. But I can still handle being a hero. We're not saying you can't handle it. We're just saying that it's better for you to relax, Ida said. Yeah, so you know, you won't put stress on the baby, Kaminari pitched in. Ochako sighed in defeat. Fine, take me home, Deku. Izuku smiled at her. He carefully changed Shoto's head on the top of the couch. He carried Ochako bridal style, then dashed out of the office, leaving a small trail of dust. Mineta walked in some seconds later. He sighed in relief as he saw Bakugo out cold on the floor. Phew, good thing I came late. So it was you, wasn't it? Mina asked. Mineta shrugged with a smug look on his face. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, yup, everything's cool. Work at the agency's good too. Yup, okay mom, you gotta let me talk now. I'm sorry dear, please go ahead. Okay, so remember that time you said you've been wanting to experience the joy of being a grandmother? Yes? Well, now you can, because I'm going to be a father in a few months. The green-haired hero distanced the phone away from his ear, knowing fully well what his mother was going to do next. Izuku! Inko Midoriya cried, and even though Izuku's phone was at least 2 inches away from his ear, he still had to pull the phone back even more. I can't believe this. I'm so happy. Do you mind if I come and visit you and my daughter-in-law? What would you like to eat? I'll cook anything you want. Izuku chuckled lightly. Of course not, mom. And don't worry about food, okay? Okay, but oh wow. This is so exciting. I love you so much, sweetie. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? And say hi to my lovely Ochako. Okay, I love you too, Mom, he said in a happy tone. Izuku ended the call and stuffed the phone in his pocket. Deku, were you talking to someone? Ochako called out from their kitchen. Yeah, I was talking to Mom. I just told her about the baby, so she wants to come over tomorrow. Ochako dashed out of the kitchen and ran to where Izuku was standing somewhere near the front entrance of their house. Really? She's coming over? That's awesome. I can't wait to see her again, she said with a huge smile on her face and stars in her eyes. She said hi too, Izuku said. Your mom's the best, Deku. You know there's a new recipe I made that I need to show your mom, 'cause I remember the last time she came, and she made that awesome. Izuku's sweat dropped as he continued to watch his wife ramble on about his mother's good cooking. Inko hugged her phone against her chest with teary eyes. I'm gonna be Granny. This is too exciting. I can't believe this. I think my heart is going to explode from happiness. Inko walked to her living room with a huge smile on her face. Her eyes landed on the spiky-haired ash-blonde woman who was sitting on one of the couches and giving her a confused stare. Who are you talking to? Mrs. Bakugo asked. It was Izuku. He's gonna be a father. Mrs. Bakugo's face lit up in happiness. Really, that's amazing, she said with a huge smile. But her smile faded, and she had a look of sadness, despair, and hopelessness on her face. Is there any hope for my Katsuki to get married, or even get a girlfriend? Inko gave a supportive pat on her shoulder. Of course. Katsuki is a very handsome man after all, and plus he's a hero, and not to mention the second-ranked hero in the world. So don't worry about it. Inko, it's not his looks I'm worried about, it's his horrible personality. I'm sure Katsuki is a sweet man. He's not sweet, he's sour, no scratch that, he's bitter. He's like the horrible aftertaste you have after accidentally drinking expired milk. Now that's not a way to talk about your son. You don't get it, Inko. This year, I've tried to get more than 20 girls to try and date him, but he always scares them away just by looking at them, or he sends them home running after insulting them. I'm sure he's just not ready yet. Mrs. Bakugo gave Inko a look of disbelief. Not ready? He's 27 years old, and he's going to get older pretty soon, she said with fake tears. Inko held Mrs. Bakugo's hands. Ugh, I really wish I knew her name. Don't worry about Katsuki, you just have to be patient, and then one day, he'll find a perfect, beautiful old lady that he'll accept with open, loving arms. I wish that little brat won't even talk to me anymore because he thinks I'm going to send more girls over to him. She burst out in more tears. I wish he was more like Izuku. Inko rubbed her back softly. There, she said with a soothing voice. She handed her a tissue. Blow. Thanks, Inko. Sniff, that's why Sniff, you're my best friend. Kirishima woke up feeling like crap. His eyes scanned his environment, and he realized that he wasn't in his house, and apart from that, there were other people passed out beside him. I'm still at Midoriya's? He asked himself, remembering how he partied the living daylight out of himself, if that even makes sense. Kirishima groaned in pain as he massaged his temples, feeling the pain of his hangover throb in his head mercilessly. He looked at the mass of junk and people all over the area that Izuku called his living room. The speakers were still on, and they were still silently playing music, empty, and half-drunk bottles of sake all over the floor. There were empty plates with scraps of food everywhere, and in short, the place was a mess. Kirishima managed to pull out a small smirk when he saw Yayorozu with her hair down, and sprawled all over her back cuddling Shoto in her sleep from afar. And of course, he was still asleep too. Mina was asleep with a half-eaten slice of pizza on her chest. Her legs were on top of Siro's head, and Siro was using Mineta's head as a pillow, which would probably be very painful when he woke up. Kaminari's shirt was soaking wet since he didn't seem to notice the now empty bottle of sake fall on his shirt in his sleep. He was sleeping silently beside Kyuka, and she was also asleep. And last, but the least, was Hagakure, who was the cause of everyone's drunken state. Her invisible body was asleep on Ojiro, and his tail was holding her in place. Wow, they all look so wasted. Kirishima groaned, holding his head in pain. Kirishima heard a weak groan from behind him. Kirishima? A weak voice called out. Kirishima turned around, and was surprised to see Bakugo lying flat on his face, and stretching his arm out towards him. Bakugo? He helped me up. His voice was dry and hoarse. Kirishima helped Bakugo to his feet, as they both stood up. You okay? He asked. Bakugo gripped Kirishima's shirt, putting all his weight on him. Of course not. I feel like shit, I think I'm gonna throw up soon shit. Bakugo groaned in pain and frustration. He rested his right arm on Kirishima's shoulder, who was currently trying to hold him in place. My fucking head. It hurts. Why did I come to Deku's damn party in the first place? This is all your fault, hair for brains, Bakugo grunted, as he remembered Kirishima dragging him out of his house to celebrate with Deku and the others. Kirishima rolled his eyes. You didn't have to come, you know. I gave you a choice, remember? And besides, nobody asked you to drink beyond your limit. I ain't feeling so hot either right now. She shut up, Bakugo replied weakly. I only came for the food, ugh. Your voice is making my hangover worse. Is that so? Then I guess I can just drop you on the floor then. Don't even try it, Bakugo said, clutching on to Kirishima harder. Kirishima smirked. Humph. That's what I thought. You know, Bakugo, you're even worse than me. I mean, you can't even pick yourself up. She shut up. This is my first hangover, damn it. Anyway, just take me to Deku's room. Why? I left some of my stuff in there, Bakugo said, trying to fight the urge to vomit. Okay, sure, Kirishima. And Bakugo made their way to Izuku's room, which wasn't too far from where they were standing. Man, we really trashed this place, Kirishima said, looking all around the living room. Who the hell cares? Bakugo grunted. Of course you wouldn't care. I'm pretty sure Midoriya was the only one that didn't get drunk last night, since he most likely didn't drink sake like the rest of us. Kirishima slowly opened the door. And Uraraka too, because I think she left early for some reason. Kirishima stopped moving and talking all of a sudden, which made Bakugo annoyed and looked up at him. What's the big idea for brains? He followed Kirishima's gaze, and his eyes landed on the two nude sleeping figures on Izuku's large bed, although one of them was awake. Izuku was rolling around his bed, massaging his temples, softly groaning in pain. He was completely naked, and his privates were barely covered by his blankets. Midoriya? Kirishima called out. Startled, the green-haired hero quickly sat up at the sound of his name. Kirishima? What are you doing? Who's that beside you? He felt his cheeks go red, as he looked at Uraraka silently sleeping beside Izuku. And of course she was naked too. Her whole back was exposed, and the top of her chest. Fortunately, the blankets covered her legs, and the front of the lower half of her body. TCH. Someone's been busy, Bakugo said with an immense scowl on his face, not really caring about the situation. Kirishima? Kaken? What are you doing here? I thought everyone went home already, Izuku said with his cheeks red, and his face flushed in embarrassment. No, there are still like 10 of us here, Kirishima said, still frozen in shock. This isn't what it looks like. You see, yesterday I got drunk, and I think the wine Hagakure brought was alcoholic. Oh yeah? So what happened to you and Floaty over there? What happened last night? Izuku wondered to himself. Last night, 10:30 p.m., Midoriya residents, all the ex-Class 1A, and some Class B students, particularly Shiso, Kendo, Tetsu, and Monoma, had come to Izuku's house, or very large apartment rather, to celebrate. Izuku had just become the new symbol of peace, so the girls along with Kirishima and Kaminari wanted to celebrate the occasion by throwing a party and inviting anyone they could remember. The speakers were blasting with loud music, courtesy of Kyuka, and there were empty plates of food everywhere. The party started in the late afternoon, so most of the people were gone already, everyone except Shoto, Uraraka, Yayorozu, Ida, Tsuyu, Mineta, Siro, Kaminari, Kirishima, Mina, Toru, Ojiro, and Bakugo surprisingly. Alright guys, I know that this is the moment you've all been waiting for. So take this as a special gift from yours truly, the invisible heroine announced. She dropped a huge crate filled with bottles of sake on the middle of the floor where all the ex-Class 1A Udata students sat. Hagakure, Izuku called out. You really don't want us to drink, do you? He asked worriedly. Seriously, Midoriya? She said, flying her invisible hands up and down. You just became the symbol of peace, so you need to celebrate, and you need to loosen up and party. It's your day after all, so have a drink, Toru said, shoving a bottle of sake in front of his face. Yeah, Izuku-kun. Toru's right, you need to loosen up, Mina added. She popped open a bottle of sake and shoved it into her mouth, finishing a quarter of the liquid in less than 10 seconds. Mina shook her head and let out a sigh of relief. That felt good. Drinking like a true champ, Mina, Kirishima cheered. Drinking is not a proper action of a hero, Ida yelled, doing his hand gestures. I agree with Midoriya that we shouldn't be getting drunk. You're lost, Ida. It's 10:35 p.m., it's a party, and I'm ready to rumble. Pass me a bottle, Mina, Kaminari said. I'll have one too, Kyuka said, raising her hands. Get me one too, so I can prove just how manly it is to drink. Get me a fucking bottle too, Bakugo yelled. Izuku looked at his former classmates with a worried expression. Guys, please settle down. There is no need for you to get drunk. Midoriya-chan's right. Drinking can make things get a little intense, Suyu said, putting her index finger on her chin like she usually does. Izuku felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around to look at Uraraka, who was smiling at him, making him blush a little. Let them have their fun, Deku. There's no harm in it anyway, she said, stuffing a slice of pizza into her mouth. Everyone, we should have a drinking challenge, Yaoyorozu announced. Shoto looked at his girlfriend in shock. You too? Well, it's not going to hurt or anything, she said, nervously picking a bottle for herself. Suit yourself then, he said, giving her a dismissive wave. So what about the people who don't want sake? Tsuya asked. Do not fret, for I have a solution, Tura said. I had a feeling that there would be party poopers like our new symbol of peace here, so I bought a lot of non-alcoholic wine, she said, bringing out another crate from nowhere. You can drink this, right, Midoriya? Izuku nodded. Sure. Okay, everyone has a bottle? Tura asked excitedly. Everyone nodded, and held their bottles in the air. Geez, I can't even remember the last time we did this, but go beyond. Plus ultra. Everyone cheered except Bakugo, who just muttered it angrily. Let's do the drinking game, guys, Mina said, popping her bottle open. Kaminari smirked, and flipped his hair. I'll have you guys know that no one can hold their liquor like I can, right, babe? He turned to look at Kyuka, who gave him a smile, and a nod. Humph, we'll see. I'd like to take you up on that challenge, Kirishima said, bashing his fists together. I accept, Kaminari said with a smirk. The two of them sat in front of the coffee table across from each other. Round 1, Kirishima versus Kaminari. Yaoyorozu shouted, slamming her hand on the middle of the table between them. Start. Both heroes quickly opened their bottles of sake, and started chugging it down immediately. This caught the attention of the others, and they were all engrossed in the competition. Chug, 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 they cheered. Kirishima felt his eyes water, as the burning sensation of the alcohol passed through his throat. He withdrew from the bottle even though he hadn't even gone halfway yet. What the hell? This stuff's strong. Damn it. Kaminari smirked, and pulled, and withdrew from the empty bottle. Giving in already, man? Lame. No one can hold in their liquor like I can. He shouted in victory, and gave Kyuka a high five. Anyone still up for a challenge? The lightning hero asked. Hey, how about you, Bakugo? You've been silently drinking with yourself for a while now, so how about you loosen up, throw your rivalry aside, and have a drink off with me? Fuck no, he snarled. Figures, I bet you couldn't even beat me anyway. And I'm pretty sure this is your first time drinking too. How cute. You're like an innocent child who's just seeing the outside world for the first time. Bakugo's eyes twitched, and he felt all the veins in his forehead throb. What did you say? Oh, Bakugo, are you gonna take that? Mina asked. All the heroes surrounded the two. Pass me a fucking bottle, he ordered. Mina hurriedly ran to the crate, and pulled out another bottle. She threw the bottle at Bakugo, and he caught it without even flinching. You're on, Drooly. Meanwhile, Tura stood beside Tsuya, who was watching from the sidelines, evilly grinning to herself, even though it wasn't visible. Tsuya noticed her weird, silent, evil laughter, and turned to look at her. Tura-chan, what did you do? Hee. I never bought non-alcoholic Tsu-chan. Everyone's going to get drunk tonight. And I mean everyone. I couldn't just let all of my uncle's almost expired, totally expensive sake go to waste, she giggled to herself. Tsuyu shook her head, and she dropped her bottle on the nearby counter. Good thing I didn't open mine, she thought. 1 hour later. Chug, chug, chug. The heroes cheered, surrounding the two young adults who looked like they were about to pass out from the excess drinking. Bakugo painted, fighting the vomit making its way to his mouth. He roughly dropped the half-drunk bottle of sake on the coffee table. Give it up, Bakugo, you can't win, Kaminari said, smirking in victory. Shut the fuck up. You're past your limit too, damn it. Don't look down on me, he grunted. You're a funeral man, Kaminari said, taking another big gulp of sake. Once he finished it, he slammed it down on the coffee table. Oh damn, he said, panting hard. Kyuka started to rotate her earlobes in a fan-like motion. He gave her a weak smile. Thanks, babe. I believe in you, you can do it, she said, giving him a kiss on the cheek. Bakugo clicked his tongue in annoyance. He lost again, but not for long. He was going to keep drinking until he beat Kaminari's ass. I ain't done yet, Drooly. Bakugo, that's enough. If you continue, you're going to get a terrible hangover in the morning, Kirishima said, waving his hands frantically. Shut the fuck up. You think I can't handle another bottle of sake? Bring it on. Ida put his hand on the middle of the table. His face was red from his cheeks all the way to his ears. Round 6 begins, he shouted loudly. And more hick sake, Mina shouted. Drink more. I can't believe I have 8 fingers, Ojiro said, staring at his hands. Who wants to hick play dare with me? Mineta yelled angrily, jumping up and down. I love being high in the sky, Siro sang. You guys, drinking is so much fun. Yaoyorozu said, spinning around then falling on her butt. Shoto snatched the half-drunk bottle of sake away from her hand. I think you've had enough. Yaoyorozu pouted. She tried to snatch the bottle away from Shoto, but he kept on raising it higher, so she couldn't reach it. That's it mean Shoto. Give it back. Shoto stayed beside the only other sober person in the apartment. Tsuyu. You're not going to drink? She asked. Heck no. If I'm drunk then who's going to watch out for Momo? He said using a free hand to push her away from him, as she kept on trying to reach for the bottle. What about you? I'm not really a sake person. Plus this is really getting out of hand. The two watched the rest of the heroes run wild in Izuku's living room. Kirishima, it's advisable for you to put your feet on the tables, Ida shouted. I need more sake, Mina shouted. Why do I have 8 fingers? Why? Ojiro continued to panic, while Toru was trying to comfort him. Toru-chan never bought any non-alcoholic wine because she wanted Midoriya-chan to get drunk, that's why, Tsuyu said. I see Midoriya. Speaking of Midoriya, where is he? Shoto asked. Last time I saw him, he was with Ochako-chan, she said. Damn it Bakugo. I'm going to get a serious hangover in the morning, Kaminari moaned. Hey, I'm still up for a challenge, Kirishima said, positioning himself beside Kaminari. Bakugo glared at the spiky-haired redhead. Shut up, hair for brains. You couldn't even hold half a bottle, and Drooly ain't going anywhere until I beat his ass, he said, pushing him away. Mean. Hey, how about you, Siro? Sure man, why not, Siro sang again. Okay, you and I can't go anymore, hick, I'm at my limit, Kaminari said, passing out near Kyuka who was lying asleep near him. Ha! You see. I told you I'd win, you fucker. Bakugo shouted in victory. I told you I'd. Oh shit, Bakugo collapsed on the floor. Bakugo wins. Sort of, Ida announced before falling unconscious on the coffee table. Hey Kirishima, I can't go any further either, I'm down, Siro said, fainting on the couch he was sitting on. What? Really? And just when I was getting the hang of this drinking too, Kirishima cried. Hey Tsu-chan, are you up for a challenge? He called out. Sorry Kirishima-chan, but I'm not a sake person. Plus it's really getting late, so I'll just see you tomorrow or later I guess, she said, exiting the room. Okay then, what about Todoroki? Shoto had somehow fallen asleep on the floor, with Yaoyorozu sleeping on top of him. Mina? Mina had passed out on the ground too. Damn, and all the other manly men aren't here. Sato, Shuji, and Tokoyami left already. What about you, Ojiro? Ojiro had passed out too, along with Hagakure, whose sleeping body was being held firm by his tail. Where are Midoriya and Uraraka? Kirishima scanned the room for the two of them, but they were nowhere to be found. Maybe they dozed off, but whatever, I think I'm at my limit too, Kirishima said, passing out. Izuku groaned, as he tried to get Uraraka to lie down on his bed for what seemed like the 100th time. The two had left the others in the living room when Izuku noticed Uraraka getting a little tipsy. He decided to let her sleep in his room since it was too late to take her home, but every time he would try and drop her on his bed, she kept clinging to him. It was either that or she would wrap her arms and legs around him, making them fall on the bed together. Uraraka laughed loudly as the two of them toppled on the bed again. Come on Uraraka, stop fooling around, Izuku said, standing up from the bed, but Uraraka quickly wrapped her arms around his back. I don't want you to leave Deku and stay with me, she said, giggling. Izuku unhooked her arms and gently put her down on the bed again. Uraraka was completely drunk, and he really wanted her to get a good night's rest. Izuku was feeling a little dizzy himself too, because the alcohol he accidentally drank was slowly taking over his body. When Izuku was successfully able to make Uraraka lie down on his bed, he dashed to his bedroom door before she got a chance to do anything again. Izuku put his ear against the door. Uraraka, I'm gonna go check on the others. It's gotten real quiet outside. What? No! Don't leave me all alone, Deku, she cried, fumbling with the pillows on Izuku's bed. Uraraka, I just want to go and check on the others. I'll be back. And besides, you're drunk, and I think I am too, he said, holding his head. I feel dizzy. Uraraka frowned at the distressed look on Izuku's face, but then her face brightened up as she thought of an idea. Do you want to sleep, Deku? Well, of course I want to sleep. I'm really tired. Then come sleep here with me. This is your bed after all, she said, patting the space beside her. I can't sleep with you, Uraraka. That would be wrong, he said, looking at his wardrobe rather than at Uraraka. Deku, I'm over here, she called out. Izuku face-palmed. Yeah, I definitely need to sleep, and get some water too, and I'll bring a glass for you too, okay? Okay, but first you need to kiss me. Izuku felt his face heat up. Kiss you? Yes, she said, lying down on her back. Then you can go and check on the others, and get our water too. Why do you want me to kiss you? He asked nervously, his face getting redder and redder by the second. What's the matter? It's not like we haven't kissed before, Uraraka said with a hint of irritation. That was true though, they had kissed a couple of times before. But every time they did, they probably wouldn't do it again until the next 2 months because of their not so sure if their dating relationship. Okay, just one? Uraraka nodded with her rosy cheeks being 10 times rosier than usual. Izuku took a deep breath and walked towards his bed, stumbling because of his half-drunken state. He sat next to Uraraka, and she moved closer to him. Izuku gulped. He knew he was drunk, and he knew that things would probably end up with him, and Uraraka doing something stupid. But at the same time, it's not like he didn't want to kiss her. Kissing Uraraka was something he'd been wanting to do for a long time. In fact, kissing was an understatement. The things he wanted to do with Uraraka on a daily basis were probably almost the same as the stuff you'd see in a hentai video. Izuku leaned in closer and closer. Uraraka closed her eyes as she felt his soft, warm lips on hers. Izuku really didn't want things to go out of hand while he could still form coherent thoughts, so he broke the kiss after 5 seconds, but immediately regretted it because his lips missed the warmth of hers. He ran his fingers through his hair and turned to face the other direction to avoid Uraraka's gaze and the disappointed look she was giving him. I can't do this, I want to, but I can't, he mumbled. Uraraka snaked her arms around his neck. Just one more, Deku. She pressed her body against his and whispered in his ear. Please, she pleaded, biting his ear softly. Izuku sighed. He couldn't argue with his feelings anymore. He knew what his heart and his body wanted. Izuku turned around, then pinned Uraraka down to the bed, kissing her violently. He slipped his tongue into her mouth and tasted every inch. The two of them pulled away for breath, leaving a trail of saliva between their lips, and stared at each other with half-lidded, lust-filled eyes. Aren't you going to check on the others? I only asked for one more kiss. Izuku lowered his head to the crook of her neck, kissing it and sucking it, making her moan softly, and running her fingers through his hair. I changed my mind. Uraraka smiled at him and pulled him close, connecting their lips together. Izuku took off his shirt and flung it over the bed, and pressed his body against hers, as the two of them continued their intense makeout. The alcohol was really kicking in now, and both heroes were so consumed by their love and lust, and minutes later their clothes were lying all over the floor, and the sound of their nude bodies clashing and intense moaning echoed all around the room. Feeling satisfied and exhausted, Izuku ran his fingers through Uraraka's soft hair, while she lay on top of him, and traced imaginary circles with her index finger on his chest. Hey Ochako, he called out softly. I love you, he said, kissing her forehead. Uraraka smiled and kissed his cheek. I love you too, Deku. And with that they both drifted off happily to sleep. Oh yeah, the memories of the previous night started to flow in Izuku's head. That's what happened. Izuku looked at Uraraka. Her eyes slowly fluttered open, and she let out a small yawn. She sat up and was about to stretch her arms before Izuku, and Kirishima screamed. Don't! Izuku and Kirishima shouted in unison. Huh? Uraraka asked in confusion. She was about to stretch her arms up again, making the blanket covering her chest slip out of place. But then Izuku pulled the blankets over her chest. Izuku sighed in relief, as he managed to avoid an awkward, embarrassing situation. Deku? She called out softly. Uraraka still hadn't fully processed the situation yet. She rubbed her eyes, then looked at Izuku, then at Kirishima, and then at Bakugo. Her face went red, as realization hit her that she was stark naked, and there were other men in the room. She screamed, and pulled the blankets closer to her, covering her whole body. Izuku panicked because the only thing covering the non-visible area of his body was about to expose him. He pulled a part of the blankets away from Uraraka so that at least his manhood could still remain hidden. Kirishima? Bakugo? Why? What's going on? Why are you here? She started to groan, and massage her temples in pain. I heard someone scream, Shoto said from behind Kirishima and Bakugo, pushing them aside so he could have space to enter. Todoroki? Izuku said, still flustered. Uraraka covered her face even more. What's going on? Mina said, as she came rushing in. Izuku waved his hands frantically, trying to assure them that nothing was wrong. Don't come in. There's nothing to see here, he yelled. Is something wrong? Kaminari asked, bolting in from nowhere. Uraraka felt even more embarrassed at the presence of another man in the room while she was naked. Kaminari? She said. Ochako. Are you alright? Hagakure called out. Please everyone, we're all fine. You don't have to crowd in here, Izuku said, panicking. Is everyone okay? Jiro asked with Yayorozu following behind her. Did something happen? Izuku and Uraraka huddled together and moved back on the bed until their backs hit the base of the bed, trying to shield themselves away from the worried hangover victims that didn't seem to notice what was going on until their eyes fell on a pair of red lace underwear and a brow that obviously didn't belong to Izuku. They all stood there frozen in shock, as they traced the scattered clothing all around the floor to the two nude heroes on the bed hiding behind the blankets. Before they could say anything, they took a moment to rub their temples in pain, except Shoto. "Oh," Kaminari spurted out. Kyuka just blinked. "Wait, what were you two doing last night?" "This is a bit awkward," Yaoyorozu muttered. Ida nervously pushed up his glasses. "You know it's actually pretty manly." "Oh shit," Bakugo covered his mouth. "I gotta throw up." "Out of the way," he yelled, pushing past Kurishima and Shoto. For a long time there was an awkward silence, and the heroes just stared at Uraraka and Izuku in shock until Hagakure and Mina squealed, breaking the awkward silence. "Oh, how adorable!" Mina cooed, balling her fist together and jumping up and down excitedly. "So you guys are each other's first?" Hagakure asked. Kyuka and Yaoyorozu were blushing. Kaminari gave Izuku a thumbs up. Ida was just in shock, and Shoto just folded his arms and smiled a bit. Izuku had never felt so embarrassed in his life. He mentally cursed, as he remembered how he didn't lock his door before last night's activity. "Guys, so you all mind please?" he pleaded. "Oh right. Sorry." Everyone cleared out of the room. Mina said apologetically. She pushed the others out of the room, and then she gave them both a thumbs up and a wink before closing the door behind her. Izuku and Uraraka sighed in relief. "I'm sorry last night things got out of hand," he said, trying to avoid eye contact with her. "I mean, I didn't even use protection. Plus I forgot to lock the door." Uraraka smiled at him. "It's okay, Deku, really," she said happily before groaning in pain. Izuku rubbed her back. "You okay?" He honestly didn't expect her to be so relaxed about the whole situation. He took her virginity away from her for crying out loud. But since she was so relaxed, that meant she was okay with it, and that put Izuku a little at ease. "I'll be fine. But damn, so this is what a hangover feels like. I'm never drinking again." "I too." Izuku kissed her lips softly. He didn't know why, but he just felt the urge to. "Does that feel better?" he asked. "Not at all," she smiled, then kissed him again. "I love you," he whispered against her lips before sealing them again. Shuto's eyes wandered tirelessly around the room. He internally grimaced at the dents on the wall, the scorch marks on the ground, and the old traditional Japanese flooring that was slowly starting to peel off, most likely from his dad's stupid tantrums. Now that he thought about it, this was the same room where his dad used to beat the crap out of him on a daily basis, making him spill out the contents of his lunch on the floor before it had a chance to settle in his stomach. And then his mom would come and defend him, of course, but things would still go south from there. "It's been so long," the fire/ice hero thought to himself, while he unconsciously patted the empty space next to him. Over the years he had started to miss the warmth and comfort of his traditional Japanese-styled family home. He moved out some months after he became a pro, and then he started living with Momo. At first, he wasn't too comfortable with the classy, modern style of Momo's house, so Momo decided to remodel their bedroom into a Japanese traditional-styled room after they got married. Shuto's eyes continued to wander the room until they locked on his fathers for a split second, and then continued to roam around the room again. "Will you stop that?" His voice boomed loudly. Shoto gave his father a plain look. Todoroki had an immense scowl on his face. The years were really catching up to him. Some wrinkles were present on his face, mostly around his forehead, and laugh lines around mouth. Probably because of his constant eminent scowl, his hair was a little pale, and he no longer used his quirk on his face, so his signature flaming beard and mustache were gone. Enji had retired some time after Shoto had graduated from U.A. That way he would take over the Endeavor Hero Agency. Enji had continued to persuade Shoto, but he wouldn't budge. "Stop what?" Shoto asked dryly, earning an even deeper scowl from his father. "Your behavior has been nothing but disgraceful, Shoto." "Is that so?" Enji slammed his fist on the little table that sat in between them. "Don't give me that stupid attitude. Why haven't you impregnated her yet? You married a girl with a strong and promising quirk, but yet you have no child?" "We're going at our own pace," Shoto replied sternly. "Don't be ridiculous. I even allowed you to date her so you could marry her. There's no point in marrying a woman if you're not going to have a child. If you have a child with a combination of your fire and ice and your wife's creation, then the child will be unstoppable when properly trained and fit to be the #1 hero." Shoto sighed in annoyance. "I can't believe you're already planning on making a tool out your grandchild, as expected of my shitty father." Enji had been a pain in the ass since the day he found out Shoto and Momo were dating. He immediately forced Shoto to marry her, but of course he refused. Shoto honestly wondered how the news of his and Momo's relationship reached his father. He only ever told his mom and his close friends, but then after his father found out, it had somehow spread to the entire country. Shoto knew his father only slightly acknowledged Momo because of her quirk and family line, and nothing else. And if she had all those good traits, then she would be perfect for a quirk-based marriage according to NG, and that was the main reason why Shoto didn't want him meddling in their relationship. The main purpose of quirk-based marriages is to create perfect. Shoto glared at NG. The whole topic of quirk-based marriages always pissed him off, because it reminded him of his mother's suffering. I didn't marry her for her quirk like the way you married Mom. I married her because I love her. He looked him straight in the eye, making NG glare in return. The two glared at each other for about a minute or so. Don't think you can control me. I'll have a child when I'm ready. And I will not submit my child to you, he said, folding his arms. NG's scowl stretched further across his face. You're just a pathetic piece of garbage, Shoto. You've been like this for years. You have never been able to live up to my expectations. First you allow that child who used to recklessly break his bones like nobody's business to surpass All Might, and then you go around with the pitiful title as the third-ranked hero. I give you the opportunity to boost your popularity by taking over my agency, and you refuse, yet you still work under that Deku. NG spat out Deku's name venomously with so much disgust and hatred, which made Shoto shoot a glare at him. He took a deep breath and let his face soften up. There's nothing wrong with working in the same agency as the symbol of peace, Shoto said calmly. How can you say something so stupid? The retired hero snarled, gripping onto the table tightly with a small fire in his palms, and causing the edge of the little table to char. A hero with so much potential and strength shouldn't be working under another hero, especially when they can easily get their own agency. Think about the amount of money you would be earning if you owned your own agency. Shoto rolled his eyes. The money thing also pissed him off a lot. I'm aware of that. Working in the Deku Hero agency is enjoyable for me, so I'm going to have a hard time thinking about taking over your agency. I need to support Momo, as her husband financially anyway, even though she doesn't actually need support from me. NG smirked at him and folded his arms. You obviously can't handle working under the symbol of peace forever because you'll never have sufficient funds. Actually, I get paid pretty well. Don't be stupid. You better get your act together as soon as possible. A hero like you, with so much potential, the fact that you're working under someone else is just so pathetic. Shoto sighed. I feel like this conversation is starting all over again. He stood up and stretched a bit. I've said what I wanted to say, and heard your useless opinions, so I'll be leaving now. I want my grandchild, NG retorted. Shoto gave him one last obnoxious smirk before walking out through the door. My resolve still stands, Dad. But don't worry, I'm done with all that disavowal shit. I will never be under your control again, not like how I was when I was a kid. Get that into your thick skull. And with that final word, he walked out of the room. Quit worrying, Momo-chan. Fuyumi Todoroki beamed. She held Momo's hand and gave them a tight squeeze. The two of them sat down on the floor in the Todoroki household's family room. Momo had been worried ever since Shoto got a call from his father in the morning, because it was obvious that NG wanted Shoto to come over so he could talk about their marriage. Momo bit her bottom lip nervously. She just couldn't help but think that her and Shoto's marriage wasn't going to last. Maybe NG would finally be able to convince Shoto to get a divorce, and that made her feel very uneasy. I'm sorry, I'm just really worried right now. I'm not ready for a divorce. Who said anything about a divorce? Fuyumi said, cutting her off. Listen, Momo-chan. I think I know my little brother well enough to see that he's crazy in love with you, so get rid of all those negative thoughts from your head, and just ignore whatever my dad says, alright? Momo nodded. Fuyumi smiled and let go of her hands. Shoto slowly walked into the family room. A small smile etched on his face when his eyes fell on the woman he adored, and called his wife. Are you guys done with your womanly heart-to-heart? He asked. Fuyumi smiled at him, and Momo gave him a nervous glance. Hey Shoto, how'd it go? Fuyumi asked. Shoto scratched the back of his head. It was pretty stupid, more or less. It was just about the same old crap he's spewing out for months now, about having a child, and becoming the top hero. Fuyumi chuckled nervously. Is that so? Well, there's nothing else I'd expect from our father. You're leaving now, right? Yes. Shoto stretched out his hand to help Momo off the floor. I'll see you later, sis. Alright, take care. Fuyumi waved. Shoto held Momo's hand. As the two walked outside, he noticed the distressed look on her face, wrapped his arm around her shoulder, letting go of her hand. What's wrong? Shoto, are you okay with this? She asked. I know your father doesn't think much of me, so are you okay defying him like that? Babe, my dad isn't the boss of me. Just because my dad wants a grandchild that will surpass Deku doesn't mean I'll give him one. We'll have whenever you're ready, okay? He gave her a small smile. Shoto, Momo purred softly. Come here, you. Shoto pulled her closer to him and cupped her chin, kissing her softly. Momo wrapped her arms around his neck. Shoto mentally smirked because he knew his dad was watching from afar. Come on, let's go home. I'm starving, Shoto said. Momo clutched onto his arm and rested her head on his shoulder as the two of them walked away together. Okay. What? Are you kidding me? I lost again? Why is Deku so strong? Kirishima yelled, rolling on the floor, holding onto his phone tightly. Dude, you've been playing that stupid hero game for days, Kaminari said, throwing a crumpled piece of paper at Kirishima's face. How is that even a hero game if Deku is the last boss? Doesn't that make you a villain or something? Gyro asked. Kirishima shrugged. Beats me, the game's just fun to play. It was a normal day for the heroes, and, as usual, whenever there wasn't anything to do, they would all kick back and relax in the agency's leisure lounge. Some of the heroes weren't even currently in the agency, so it was just Shoto, Ida, Gyro, Kaminari, Kirishima, and Tokoemi. Kaminari tried to snatch Kirishima's phone away from him. Let me try. No way, Kirishima said, pushing Kaminari towards the couch, making him fall on it. I gotta defeat Deku first. You know that kind of game seems like something Bakugo would enjoy playing. He'd do anything to take Deku down. Kaminari laughed. Yeah, Kirishima added. Where is he anyway? TCH. Bakugo stomped in the lounge angrily, muttering some incoherent curse words. Hey man, where've you been? Kirishima greeted me. Shut up, Bakugo snarled, making the empty can of soda in his hand explode, and throwing it into a nearby trash can. Luckily for Bakugo, whenever he wanted to express his anger in the least violent way possible, there was always something to kick or throw in the leisure lounge, be it an empty can of soda, or an old hero magazine, or a crumpled piece of paper. Ida, Shoto, Gyro, and Tokoemi decided to ignore his tantrums just like they always do. Ida kept himself busy by reading the agency's hero manual. Gyro was listening to music, Shoto was texting someone, and Tokoemi was sitting alone in a corner, brooding, as usual. Bakugo angrily flopped on one of the empty couches, muttering some more curse words. You sound like Deku right now, Kaminari said. Bakugo instantly glared at Kaminari, shooting his middle finger at him. What did you say? Kirishima rolled his eyes. It was just like the king of Explodo Kills was waiting for someone to ask him what was bothering him, and it was pretty obvious that his anger was towards Deku. Alright, Mr. King of Explodo Kills, what crawled up your ass today? Kirishima jokingly teased me. Just shut up, hair for brains. Are you still angry about not having a girlfriend? He asked. The question got Gyro's attention. Good thing I paused, she thought to herself. That's not it, Bakugo snarled. Well, with an attitude like that, you'll give girls a run for their money, Gyro teased. What the hell did you say? I don't see you hitting it off with any dudes, he yelled. What are you saying, man? They've been dating for like 3 weeks, Kirishima said, pointing at Kaminari and Gyro, making Gyro blush a bit. Bakugo looked a little shocked, but then his face concocted back to anger. TCH, whatever? It was on that day, wasn't it? Kirishima asked. What are you talking about? You know the day we walked in Deku and Uraraka. You know when they were naked in bed, after we got drunk. Oh, that's why you've been out of it lately. You're angry that Deku lost his virginity before you, right? Kaminari said, making Gyro laugh. Shut the fuck up. Bakugo, getting a girlfriend isn't hard, and besides you have like a million fangirls already, so maybe you should try easing up that rage of yours, Kirishima said. I can't imagine Bakugo being anything but angry. Also, it will be hard to find a girl who can tolerate his tantrums, Shoto said, joining in the conversation. Indeed, finding a girl with a good tolerance level will be very difficult, Tokoemi added. Quit using the word tantrum like I'm a freaking kid, and you two should shut the fuck up. It's not like you guys are all hitched like half and half here. Kirishima laughed. Dude, Tokoemi, and Tsuyu are engaged, and plus I've been hitting it off with Mina, so yeah, you're like the odd one out. Bakugo's jaw dropped for a split second, but then he started to grit his teeth in anger. Wow, when did you all? What the hell? What about Four Eyes? He's still single, he yelled, pointing at Ida. Ida pushed up his glasses. I simply do not desire for a woman in my life right now, that is all. Well, at least Ida's personality is tolerable, and besides, who wouldn't want a rich dude like him? Getting a girlfriend shouldn't be a challenge for Ida. Kaminari. Bakugo, you're like a chained lion, so I'll feel really bad for your girl, if you ever get one, Gyro added. Shut up. Bakugo, you can always settle for men. I'm sure there are plenty of guys who would love to have sex with you, Shoto said calmly. Gross, Shoto. Kirishima laughed. You damn half and half. Do I look like a fag to you? Bakugo snapped. It's all because of the whole virginity thing, right? A few days ago I heard you and Kirishima talking about you being a virgin at age 26. Kaminari snickered. Yeah, you know, Bakugo seems like the kind of dude that'd be banging girls week after week, but he hasn't even kissed one yet. Gyro teased, while all the others laughed. Bakugo's eyes twitched in irritation. I'll show you all, you stupid fuckers. You guys think you're all so high and mighty, just because you're all dating each other, you stupid fuckers. I can get a girlfriend too, damn it. One that's strong, cool, and of course good looking. Deku and Uraraka have sex like all the time, and I'm pretty sure Bakugo wanted to experience the joy of pleasuring a girl before Deku, Kirishima said, and then he started complaining about the fact that he lost in the game again. Stop fucking talking like I ain't here, damn it. There's always the option of settling for men, Bakugo, Shoto said bluntly, while dodging the flying hero magazine Bakugo threw towards his direction. Mind the use of your words, people, Ida scolded while doing his usual hand gestures. As Bakugo continued raining curses like no tomorrow, Deku nervously peered his head through the door. Guys? Is there something wrong? I can hear your screaming all the way from the hallway. Hey Deku, Kirishima waved. You don't need to worry. It's just Bakugo blowing off steam by throwing tantrums just like he usually does. Stop fucking using that word, Bakugo yelled. Deku walked inside the lounge. He wasn't wearing his costume, so he was just in casual clothes. Deku took after All Might in a lot of ways, including his dressing style, so Gyro couldn't help but blush. As her eyes scanned Deku's body from head to toe, he looked really good in the plain white, fitted t-shirt that hugged his muscles, the baggy navy blue jeans that he was wearing, and of course, his trademark red sneakers. It's not like Gyro didn't find Kaminari attractive, but Deku had a body that looked like it was sculpted by ancient Greek gods. Geez, Ochako's so lucky. Fucking Deku. Bakugo spat in a harsh tone, which was his usual way of greeting him. Deku smiled at him. Hey Kaken, did someone steal your curry again? He asked calmly. Shut up, you nerd. Oh, don't mind him. He's just angry because he's single and still a virgin, Kaminari said. Bakugo glared at him, but Kaminari just whistled and turned to face the opposite direction. Really? But Kaken, you know you're really good looking. Finding a girlfriend shouldn't be hard for someone like you, Deku said. That's not all, Kirishima added. He's angry that you lost your virginity before him. Since you and Uraraka have sex like all the time, he said, wiggling his eyebrows. Deku blushed nervously. Don't say stuff like that out loud, Kirishima, he sputtered. It's not like it's a lie, right? Kaminari said. Deku said. We've only done it twice. Bakugo, there's always the option of, just drop it already, half and half, Bakugo yelled. TCH. I'm going home. There's nothing to do here anyway. Bakugo walked towards the door. Good luck with your girlfriend hunting Kaken, Deku called out. Bakugo stopped in his tracks, and then turned to glare at him. Whatever, you'll cover up for me, right? Yeah, but I didn't bring my costume. I wasn't planning on staying for long. I can't believe you're really leaving. Yeah, I know, although my stay here was enjoyable. I understand, but where will you go now? Well, I'm gonna crash at my friend's place for the time being. But Izuku, you're the symbol of peace. You could easily get a mansion if you asked. He rubbed the back of his head softly. It wouldn't be fair. There are a lot of people who work their butts off day and night, and yet they still can't live comfortably. So if I just asked, it would be selfish of me, as the symbol of peace. I would rather live like everyone else than getting a free easy life. As always, you're too kind. Izuku chuckled nervously. You know, I'm really going to miss you, Tome-san. The lady behind the counter smiled. Yeah, me too, but don't worry about it. I'll have you checked out in no time. Sure, take your time, Izuku sighed. He was really going to miss the apartment-like hotel he was living in. Up till now, he still wasn't sure if the place was a hotel or an apartment. It was really high class and fancy, with large spacious rooms. Plus there was excellent room service, which made it hotel-like. But the rooms had kitchens in them too, which contrasted with the hotel-like nature of the building. Izuku really did enjoy living in the apartment/hotel, he really did. His room was on the highest floor, so that gave him a chance to do some exercise whenever he went up or down the stairs. Izuku had an amazing view of the city too, but unfortunately, he lacked privacy. Every day was a new story. The moment people found that he was living in the building, people would surround his room every day, mostly fangirls who would slip love letters under his door, or stand outside and giggle non-stop. In the morning, Izuku would wake up to the sound of a helicopter, filled with noisy people from the press, outside his window. The paparazzi would also surround the entrance to the apartment, so the employees always let Izuku leave through the employees-only doors. Izuku had considered leaving at that time, but decided not to. There were good times too. Some really cool fans would bake some nice cakes or cookies for him sometimes, or bring him some foreign food, which Izuku would always call his friends to come over and share. On occasions like that, Kaminari and Kirishima were never absent. But after, the fandom got worse, way worse. The fans had somehow managed to copy Izuku's room key, and break into his room. Whether it was someone's quirk or someone's pure genius, Izuku would never know. The fans took his clothes, shoes, and almost everything they could find that was worth selling. Izuku almost cried the day he discovered that his beloved collection of All Might figurines was stolen. At that time Izuku had considered leaving again, but he let it slide. Izuku was glad they didn't at least steal his toothbrush, since the fans stole almost all his toiletries. But when Izuku's toothbrush tasted like rotten sushi, he knew something was off. Izuku went over to his agency's support company to go and see Hatsum, since she was the president now. Izuku asked Hatsum if she had anything that could check for the DNA of other people on a toothbrush. Of course she didn't have anything like that, so she immediately got to work on one, after charging Izuku with a fee of 10,000 yen which he reluctantly paid. Hatsum managed to invent a small device specifically for toothbrushes, which would scan the bristles of the toothbrushes for DNA samples. Izuku used it, and it worked like a charm. But when the toothbrush scanner read 26, Izuku really wanted to believe that Hatsum's machine was wrong, but her inventions never failed, so Izuku ended up flushing the toothbrush and losing his appetite for the whole day. He complained to the manager, and the manager apologized to him. He also conducted a security search and checked every nook and cranny of each room for any of Izuku's belongings. Unfortunately though, they were only able to retrieve one of Izuku's All Might figurines. Izuku also decided to let the situation slide, since the little girl apologized for taking the figurine. The manager gave Izuku his own private room, which would constantly be guarded by security. Izuku said the security guards weren't necessary, but the manager insisted. The first few weeks went well, and Izuku started to enjoy his new room. But then the fans had somehow, yet again, managed to copy Izuku's new room key and break into his room in his absence, stealing almost every valuable thing, except his phone of course, because that would have been too obvious. Izuku complained to the manager again, and the manager apologized again. Another search was conducted, but this time, nothing was retrieved. Izuku decided to let it go again. The last straw came when Izuku found two fangirls, lying naked on his bed. Since Izuku was terrible at handling nude girls, he asked the security guards to help him out, and they carried the girls who were trying to declare their love for him or something, away. Izuku and Uraraka, and asked her what he should do. Uraraka was obviously very displeased about the whole naked fangirls in bed thing, so she urged Izuku to move out and stay at her house, and then Izuku finally said yes. Alrighty then. You officially don't live here anymore, the lady behind the counter, Tom said. Time was the receptionist for the apartment/hotel. As well as Izuku's good friend, she didn't really care if he was the symbol of peace or not, and Izuku really liked that since his only honest friends were the other pro-heroes. So it was rare to see people who didn't just like him for being Deku, but people who liked him for just being regular Izuku Midoriya. Time was a year older than Izuku, and she was quirkless, so they got along real well, and Izuku accidentally let the secret of one for all slip out in one of their conversations, but Tome swore not to tell anyone, and Izuku trusted her. Tome handed Izuku a check. What's this? He asked. This is for all the valuables that were stolen from you. What? It's fine really, he pleaded. Please accept it on behalf of the manager. She stretched out her hands further, and hung her head low, making her long black hair slightly fall out of place. Izuku hesitantly took the check from her hands. He really didn't like accepting money out of the blue like that, especially when he didn't do anything to earn it. I'll just donate this to charity, I guess. Thank you. Those thieving fans were really clever. They all ran away when they heard about the security check, she said in irritation. Don't worry about it, Izuku said reassuringly. Her golden eyes twinkled in excitement, which happened a lot when she talked to Izuku. I'm going to miss you a lot, Izuku. Yeah, me too. I'm sorry, Tome-san. What are you apologizing for? She scoffed. Run along now, Izuku. I hope you find a good house to stay in. Izuku waved one last time before he carried stuff away, with the help of the employees of course. I promise to always keep in touch. Goodbye, Deku. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.